It's very important as a family that you teach your children about money from an early age. And in fact, there are 3 things that you can actually do with money. You can save it, you can spend it, or you can give it away. I've done an entire separate course aimed at young people about managing money, which I think you might enjoy and you can check out on my website. But in the meantime, while you have young children, this can start from the very first allowance that they get. Instead of giving them 1 piggy bank, give them 3 piggy banks and divide any allowance they receive into the saved part of the allowance, the spending part of the allowance, and the charity part of the allowance. This really goes back to John D. Rockefeller II, who created this amazing allowance contract with his son, John D. Rockefeller III. It's a handout for this course that you'll find available to you. And when you read this contract, you see that John D. insisted that his son, who was 14 years old at the time, put 20% of his money into savings, 20% of his allowance into charity, and then he could spend 60%, but he had to write down everything that he spent. And his father, who was the wealthiest man in the world at that time, actually sat down every week and reviewed his son's spending reports. If his son did it correctly, he got a raise of 10 cents a week. His allowance was only $1.50 a week, which was the typical allowance of any kid during that time. So he would get a 10 cents raise if he did his spending tracking, and his allowance would be reduced by 10 cents if he did not track his spending properly. If his son voluntarily chose to give more than 20% to charity or to savings, his father would match fund that amount of money. Now that's a simple allowance plan that anybody can do with their kids. It encourages saving and philanthropy, and it encourages tracking spending. And those are the habits that we want to build into children from the earliest age. Spending today can be tracked through all kinds of apps. One that is fairly popular is called Mint.com. eMoney has an app that the children can use, but really you want to get them tracking every penny that they spend. And this way, nobody goes unconscious. They always realize how much money they're spending. That's critical. And again, you can teach about investing by involving children in the family philanthropy. This is a way to get them involved with some of the family's money without revealing the total size of the family fortune. And it's a great place to practice. It's also important if you have, say, siblings who have children that are cousins who are going to end up taking over a family business together, that they learn to work as a group. So I suggest that you put a pot of money together and make the cousins invest together as a group to learn how to handle money and make decisions as a team, because in the future they will be running your businesses as a team and you want them to be prepared. One of the goals of the single family office is, if there is a family business, is to prepare the heirs to become leaders in the future. And there's lots of ways that the family office can help with this goal. Young people are full of potential, and they bring a fresh perspective to life, and they see the world very differently than we do. Just think about the fact that most children today were born after the year 2000, and therefore they have never known a time when the internet did not exist, unlike those of us who were born much earlier and remember when it was around the year 2000 when the internet came into existence. So their brains are literally wired differently. They look at the world differently, and so we have to listen to them if we want to understand where the world is going in the future. And the family office can help the family develop these young people into the leaders that they can be to lead the family forward into this new future that we will all be facing. So how do we do that? First of all, we want to develop a common goal. A first place we can start developing future leaders is through the family philanthropy. And why do we choose the family philanthropy? Well, first of all, most families are very comfortable letting children know about the philanthropic activities of the family. So it's something they're willing to share information about, as opposed to the businesses where they like to keep financial information more confidential. So we often start with philanthropy. We can get the children to work together as a group, particularly cousins if they're going to end up running a business together, and they can learn how being wealthy gives them the opportunity to help others. And this often helps them solve that internal conflict of, why am I wealthy while there's so many people out there in the world who are starving? So getting them involved in the philanthropy and showing how the family is contributing to solve social ills is a great way to get started developing leadership. Children can decide which charities they want money to go to. They can create projects. They can develop online petitions. There's so many ways that children naturally and eagerly want to get involved with helping the world. And using the family philanthropy as a focus is one of the great ways you can start on this process.